So today we got the news that Ubisoft spins out new unit for Assassin's Creed and other games. Tencent takes a $1.25 billion stake. Now, keep in mind that Tencent already owned a very small portion of Ubisoft. They invested in the company many years ago. But this is actually a win-win for both companies. Now, a lot of people are rooting for the downfall of Ubisoft. I don't think that's a fair argument, considering they brought out many great games in the past, 20 years? They've been around maybe longer. But so, yeah, we're aware of all the political agenda behind the games, the infusion of DEI and woke stuff and all that crap. I mean, you guys see videos all over YouTube. It's everybody's already aware of that. We're talking about the business aspect of Ubisoft. And people were saying that if Assassin's Creed Shadows didn't sell, let's say, at least 10 million units, which it would be nice if they did, but I don't think it's going to happen, that Ubisoft would then be, facing an eventual buyout by a bigger company, and in this case, Tencent. But they are smart because the Guillemot brothers, they just don't want to lose control of the company, and nor should they. But let's be honest, it's been mismanaged for a very long time. So these three IPs are their biggest brands, okay? We're talking about Assassin's Creed, Far Cry, and the entire Tom Clancy umbrella. So that is The Division, that is Rainbow Six Siege, that is, I think, maybe, was it Wildlands? That's actually the last Tom Clancy game, Ubisoft game that I've purchased that I can remember. But anyways, to get back on topic, this here is not a buyout. It's an infusion. Basically, it's a bailout. Ubisoft is so much in debt that Tencent, they came to an agreement, and Tencent basically is playing Daddy Warbucks, is a bank, a credit line of $1.25 billion US, 1.6 billion in euro. And basically it's an infusion of money so Ubisoft can then pay off their debts. That's how much in debt they are. So with that comes a big bonus and a big plus for Tencent. Keep in mind, Tencent is like the king of live service. They're like the king of mobile. They're the king of like microtransactions. I mean, you name it. And so what's going to happen is that Ubisoft will still remain 100% control of the creative process, of the entire development process. And Tencent is basically going to lay back with their investment and say, you guys give us access to these three IPs, and with your production, your development, right, and your oversight in the creative process, we can then like flood the Chinese market with our specialty, which is mobile, which is live service, which is multiplayer, which is microtransactions. And that's why when you're playing Assassin's Creed Shadows, there's actually sometimes pop-ups of like things that just arrived in the store, which is such a... I'm playing through it right now, right? It's my first Assassin's Creed, by the way. I'm playing through it right now, and it's such a jarring experience when I get that pop-up. And no wonder Tencent, they see blood in the water. They see huge opportunity because keep in mind, they've been in business for a while too, right? So this is not the end of Ubisoft. This is not, oh my God, they're going under. The ship is sinking. The ship is kind of sinking. There are holes in the hull, but Tencent came and plugged it with their infusion of that's a lot of money. Now, it's actually interesting to look at this is the CNBC article, right? It's actually interesting to look at the actual press conference because they state further down here, and I actually ran it through ChatGPT, and I gotta love ChatGPT and even Grok if you guys don't have chat. It gave you a nice little summary, and then I kept expanding on certain key points. And Tencent is prohibited from selling their share for the next 5 years. And in the case of a total buyout, for example, meaning let's say another company came in, let's say EA, let's say Activision, even Tencent or an even bigger company, right? Nexon, they're huge too. But let's say a really big company came in and wanted to buy out Ubisoft in the next 2 to 3 years, right? So there's a stipulation in this contract to where, like, if that so happens and there is a change in the executive branch, for example, the leaders, like, for example, the Guillemot brothers, decided, okay, this is the time for a buyout, we're going to take it, then they can go back to the table, and Tencent can then sell their shares under that 5-year window if that's happens. But I don't think it's going to happen. Now, another thing too is that we might see some mobile games, but don't fret. It's not going to be for the U.S. market. It's going to be for the Chinese market. You could very well see like Assassin's Creed. You could see Far Cry. You can see several of the Tom Clancy IP titles be pushed onto mobile but in the Chinese market. So everybody wins here. Ubisoft is not going out of business. I'm not ruling out the fact that it could go out of business or it could get bought out later on down the road, a couple years down the line. So we'll see what happens. I saw this article here about Zotac. They're saying the hell with MSRP on the 5090, and they're charging $3,000 for their next RTX 5090 model here. And it's really embarrassing, and it's really sad to see this, because everybody's hurting for a new GPU right now. I was one of the lucky ones who woke my ass up, went to Micro Center down in Miami, the only Micro Center in South Florida. And so I waited in line an hour and a half. When I got there, all the MSRPs for the 9070 XT were out. Everybody in there was over 100 people there. I got video on that. And everybody there was just in line for the 9070 XT. And it goes back to my argument, and I said this on one of my previous streams. I said that there is no way that NVIDIA could let AMD just roam free all throughout the month of March, and that's exactly what they did. We're already on the 27th of March. There's like 3 to 4 more days until the end of the month, and still there is no inventory. There's no news of inventory. And you can tell that if Zotac is going to do something like this, and they're one of the, they're one of the AIBs for NVIDIA, and one of the partners for NVIDIA, that they have inside information and inside sources as to what's going on with the rest of the inventory problem that NVIDIA is facing right now, and with the manufacturing of the 5000 series. And this is a huge, as we stand now, this is a huge flop, because the 5090 is the best graphics card, the most powerful graphics card in the world right now, and you cannot get your hands on it. And so what's happening? People are now going for the second best option would be a 5080. Same situation. You go on OfferUp, you go on eBay, you go on Facebook Marketplace, and these people are selling these cards for like $1,000 to $1,500 over MSRP. That is just beyond ridiculous. I saw a 5080 the other day on OfferUp, a 5080 on OfferUp, which MSRPs for $999. It was being sold for like $2,500. Dude, you can go F yourself. Like, no one's going to pay those prices. And what sucks, though, is that now is a great time to build a PC, because a lot of chips are being discounted. I myself have the 7800 X3D, the 9800. I could have upgraded to that, but because it's a nice uplift. It's like a 10 to 15% uplift in performance. But then the 9950 X3D came out, and that's, the king daddy of like gaming CPUs right now. You don't use all 16 cores when you game. You only use, it shuts off to only use 8, and you use 16 when you're doing desktop, like things like rendering, like editing. That's when it really come in handy, all those cores. But 16 cores, 32 threads, it's a monster of a CPU. But like, there's so many CPUs right now, even in the used market, and it's a great time to like build. But everybody is just, when you get to that GPU, you're like, holy shit, well, like, what do I do? And the situation it has caused is that now people are not only going for the second best, which would be the 5080, but then that's a hairy situation there. It's a gray area, because now we're seeing these like benchmarks of the 9070 XT like going toe to toe with the 5080 on like several titles, and 3 titles. I forget which ones they were. I saw several videos of the same 3 titles where the 9070 XT is actually outperforming the 5080. But let's just say, for argument's sake, the 5090, the 5080, and then people are going for like the third best choice which would be the 9070 XT. And I was talking to a lot of people while waiting in line at Micro Center on debut day on the day of its debut, and they were there. Listen, I can't get my hands on a 5080. I can't get my hands on a 5090. I can't even get my hands on a 5070 because it's like $500 over MSRP, right? So they're going for like the third best option, which is my card, and like I'm happy that I got it on the day that I did, because now we're starting to see like these crazy fools on the the gray market, like the eBays and the Facebook marketplaces and the OfferUps. They're selling the 9070 XT for like, I think $1,000. It's like, no way when it like MSRP's for $699. So it kind of sucks, and shame on his company for actually going with the flow, because they see these prices and they're like, if everybody else is doing it, why it, like, for example, listen to this. If like people are buying it at MSRP, if they're lucky to get their hands on it, and then flipping it and putting it on eBay for like $5,000, I've seen this one, 5090. Why can't we sell it for $299? And this is like a huge fallacy in thinking. And this is really bad. I mean, if this is where we're going, if this is the trend of like where these companies are going with these prices, I mean, shame on these companies, but they're just taking advantage of the situation with NVIDIA's lack of inventory. And today was Nintendo Direct. It was like a 34-minute live stream. And, come on, guys, let's be real. I'm a grown-ass man. Most of the games were like for kids. I mean, look, the Switch is a much younger platform, right? But there were two titles that stood out, and titles that I played when I was a kid, when I was younger, and even in my teens, and that was the Metroid series. And we saw a new trailer for Metroid Prime, and it looks good. But I mean, come on, let's be honest, it's outdated. I mean, these graphics are like long in a tooth. We're reaching like the end. Not life cycle per se, but I would say towards the end of the Switch's production cycle, right? The Switch 2 is about to come out, and these things are powered by, I believe, the NVIDIA Tegra chip. It's pretty powerful. There is a version of the NVIDIA Tegra chip inside the NVIDIA Shield that I have connected to my panel back there, and I believe that the Switch does in fact have the NVIDIA Tegra chip, and they're going into business with Nintendo again for the Switch 2, and that's going to be a much more powerful NVIDIA Tegra chip. But at the end of the day, AMD is actually laughing their way to the bank, because like they're just powering everything. Laptops, they're powering PS5s, Xboxes. Like, Lisa Su, I believe her last name is, the CEO of AMD. She just was in China earlier this week for an AI conference and like gaming with AI integration conference. And she says that their upcoming APUs, right, which let's be honest, the consoles are pretty much APUs, but the upcoming APUs for AMD are as powerful as a PS5. Those were her own words, all right? So this woman, she's got like 3 degrees from MIT. She's like a genius. She used to work for IBM, and then now she's been the CEO of AMD for a long time. And did you know that her and Jensen are actually first cousins? Like, so we're being trolled by a family of CEOs laughing their way to the bank, while we sit here and fight AMD versus NVIDIA, Team Green versus Team Red. It's ridiculous, right? To go back to what I was saying, we're going to reach a moment in time, I believe, in the next 10 years, where APUs will be up and coming, if not a force to be reckoned with in the world of PC gaming and building PCs, to the point where I think that games are going to be developed in a very different way, because we're going to see the first signs of the beginning of the end of discrete GPUs. We will build these massive, well, not massive, I mean massive in terms of power, extremely powerful GPUs, like, in the case with all 7 parts, right? But a discrete GPU, those big things, will be a thing of the past, or will be an option, because APUs are where the future is going. And then you had Greatest Origins, right? So basically this is like, I believe 17 to 19 titles, right, that Nintendo is releasing in partnership with Konami. And I remember, man, like Gradius goes all the way back to 1981. I didn't play it because in 1981, those were mainly arcades. I was way too young to go to the arcades, right? But later on with the NES and the Super NES, Gradius was like incredible title, man. Like really hard. Like for those of you who love those top-down shooters, side-scroller shooters, and the music is insane. And with this, you get a bunch of like versions, Japanese versions that that were released in the last 40 years. But here's the thing, like Nintendo, they know that there's a huge emulation scene, and they're just trying to cash in on the cash grab. It's pretty much a cash grab, but they're giving you, you know, like a bunch of member berries for those of you who are in that Wii ecosystem. And you got to ask yourself, like, last time I checked was the numbers, I said Wii, the Switch ecosystem. Last time I checked the numbers, they were, I believe, 5.6, almost 6 million units away. Yes, I think 6 million units away from beating the world record of most consoles sold by Sony's PlayStation 2. So could they achieve that that goal by the end of the year before the Switch 2 comes out? And then today is the launch day for the first Berserker Kazan, man. Ever since I saw a couple videos of this game, and the other day I saw a stream, and everything about it is just calling my name, dude. Like the graphics, the presentation, the music, the art style. It looks really good. It's got this Devil May Cry kind of aspect to it, right? But with Souls elements, and it looks so good, dude. I mean, everything about it. And so, like, you know, I've been grinding through Assassin's Creed Shadows, and I gotta tell you, it looks beautiful. The Anvil engine, not to be confused with the Snowdrop engine, which is used on the Division and I believe a couple other Tom Clancy IPs, right? But like the Anvil engine for this game looks really good. My only problem is that most all character models look extremely dated, and the FMVs, the full motion videos, the cutscenes, they're on PC, they're stuck at 31 frames per second, consoles 30. But it's such a jarring experience when you see that, you know, you're playing the game at a high refresh rate, really high graphics, and then during the cutscenes, you're taken back to this, like, you know, console era of like yesteryear, like the 360 and the PS3 years. Like we have to move away from that because, like, you know, games are not films, right? And so it's a tedious game. Should you buy it? Maybe if you're already in the Assassin's Creed world, if you're in that ecosystem, if you played all the games, you're going to buy it no matter what I say, no matter what anyone says. But it's like going back to like those, you know, it's very reminiscent to like the Tom Clancy titles, like the Division. It's very tedious. It's like, you know, you go to an area, okay, you see a bunch of enemies, you focus in on them, you hover over their heads, and you see the health bar. Okay, they're a level 9 elite, you know, and it's like, it's extremely repetitive, and it's, you know, they cranked up the RPG elements of Assassin's Creed when you compare them to prior releases where there were more action combat, and, you know, you still have a lot of discovery and a lot of like you know, gameplay elements to that. But like, you know, this is where I see that Ubisoft could really go back and really really return to form and go back to the origins of Assassin's Creed. But look, it's beautiful to look at. No one can sit here and deny that it's not a beautiful game. Like the weather system, the transition of seasons, it's incredible, dude. I've never seen, it's probably the best looking game I've ever played in my life when it comes to that. But then, like, there's a lot of invisible walls, a lot of bugs, PC crashing all the time. But there was a 1.01 update the other day from Ubisoft because they were aware of a lot of the bugs, and it was like a 7 gig update, right? So it kind of squashed a lot of the crashings that were relegated to, I believe, DX12. You know, before the patch, the past couple of days, I was like, you know, scouring the internet for like fixes, but it's fixed, it's playable, it's nice, it's beautiful. You guys should buy it if you're already in that system, if you're already in that ecosystem, like I said. But it's a beautiful game. I'm not going to deny that. It's just tedious, dude. You know, another thing too that I want to say, it's not a review, but it could have been a standalone game, to be honest with you. I haven't reached to the point where I unlock Yusuke yet. I understand the whole politics behind the bullshit. You know, I don't want to cover that here. But you know, I don't agree with it in a sense, because I know that it is a level of agenda-driven politics from Ubisoft themselves. But to be honest with you, those two characters could have been their own games, and nobody would have batted an eye. But yeah, that is Assassin's Creed Shadows. But this game right here, this is going to be a must-buy. I'm actually going to buy this game right now as soon as I finish this video. So make sure you guys like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more. Peace.